Forgetting Sarah Marshall begins with a breakup so humiliating and so abrupt that it feels like the end of the world for one very specific man. Peter Bretter is standing in his own apartment, completely exposed in every possible way, when the woman he loves tells him she is leaving. Not only is she is leaving him for someone famous, wild, and impossible to compete with. From there, the movie turns into a messy, funny, painfully relatable story about heartbreak, rebound fantasy, and the strange way losing the person you think you need can force you to become someone much more honest. Peter lives in Los Angeles and works as a composer on the television crime series that made his girlfriend Sarah Marshall famous. Sarah is a star. She's beautiful, glamorous, and publicly adored, while Peter is the guy in the background writing music and trying not to feel invisible. For a long time that balance worked well enough, but by the time the movie starts, the relationship has already gone stale. Peter is depressed, unmotivated, and stuck in a rut. Sarah is restless and clearly pulling away. Then she finally says it out loud, she wants to break up. Peter is blindsided, not because there were no warning signs, but because he has been hiding from them. The moment becomes even worse when he learns Sarah is already seeing someone else. That someone is Aldous Snow, the lead singer of the British rock band Infant Sorrow. Aldous is everything Peter is not. He is loud, sexual, shamelessly confident, and somehow both ridiculous and magnetic at the same time. Peter is crushed. He does not just feel replaced, he feels erased. What follows is a complete emotional collapse. Peter cries constantly, watches the same television clips over and over, and calls Sarah in pathetic attempts to keep some connection alive. His half-brother Brian tries to drag him out of the spiral and finally gives him the one piece of advice that sounds remotely useful. Get away. Leave Los Angeles, stop staring at the wound, and go somewhere beautiful until the pain stops being the only thing in his head. So Peter books a vacation to Hawaii. This is supposed to be his great reset. He imagines beaches, distance, and maybe a little dignity returning to his life. Instead, the second he checks into the resort, the universe delivers the cruelest joke possible. Sarah is staying at the exact same resort, and she is there with Aldous. Peter cannot believe it. The one place on Earth he chose to escape her turns out to be the place where she is walking around in sunglasses and expensive dresses with the man who replaced him. He is too humiliated to leave and too miserable to stay, so he does the only thing available. He falls apart in public. This is where Rachel Jansen enters the story. Rachel works at the resort and is the first person to treat Peter with real kindness instead of pity or celebrity fascination. She's warm, practical, and funny without trying too hard. She sees that Peter is a disaster and helps him anyway. When he is too upset to function, she quietly steers him toward little things that might get him through the day. Unlike Sarah, Rachel is not part of a giant glamorous world. She feels grounded, and Peter responds to that immediately, even if he is too broken to fully notice it yet. At first, Peter spends most of his time trying to avoid Sarah and Aldous and failing. He keeps running into them at breakfast, by the pool, in the halls, and almost everywhere he looks. Aldous, who has no real sense of boundaries, acts weirdly friendly. He is not exactly trying to hurt Peter, but his total lack of self-awareness makes everything worse. He talks too openly, overshares constantly, and treats the whole situation as if it should not be that painful. Sarah, meanwhile, keeps sending mixed signals. Sometimes she looks guilty. Sometimes she seems annoyed with Peter for not recovering fast enough. Sometimes she acts almost nostalgic. Peter is caught between humiliation and obsession. He cannot stop watching them, comparing himself and replaying every failure in the relationship. But little by little, Rachel starts interrupting that cycle. She talks to him like he is a normal person instead of a pathetic ex-boyfriend, and she encourages him to do actual things with his time. She points him toward surfing lessons, good food, and the simple fact that he is still alive even if his heart feels wrecked. One of the funniest forces in this recovery is Kunu, the local surf instructor. Kunu gives Peter advice that is both ridiculous and strangely wise. His approach to life is relaxed to the point of absurdity, but he has one message Peter clearly needs: stop forcing everything. Stop clinging, do less. Peter is terrible at surfing, but the lessons help anyway, because for the first time since the breakup he is trying something that has nothing to do with Sarah. As Peter starts spending more time with Rachel, the tone of the movie slowly changes. He laughs more, he listens more. He begins talking about things he actually cares about, especially the puppet musical he has been secretly writing about Dracula. It sounds ridiculous, and in some ways it is, but it is also the clearest sign of who Peter really is underneath all his insecurity. Rachel does not laugh at him for it, she is curious. She treats his weird creative dream like it matters, and that makes Peter feel seen in a way he has not felt for a long time. Meanwhile, Sarah and Aldous are not exactly living a fairy tale. The more time Peter spends around them, the clearer it becomes that their relationship is a mess. Aldous is charming, but he's also selfish, impulsive, and completely unreliable. He says wild romantic things one minute and exposes his total inability to commit the next. Sarah thought leaving Peter for excitement would fix what was missing in her life, but Hawaii reveals that Aldous brings a different kind of emptiness. This contrast matters because Peter gradually starts understanding that the breakup was not just bad luck. He had really been absent in the relationship. He had checked out emotionally and let Sarah carry the frustration alone. Sarah also made selfish choices, but the movie does not let Peter off easy. For the first time, he starts seeing his own role clearly. That new honesty brings him even closer to Rachel. They spend nights together, go on dates, and build something that feels calm and natural. Rachel likes Peter because he's sweet, talented, and much more thoughtful than he gives himself credit for. Peter likes Rachel because being with her feels easy in a way love has not felt for him in a long time. He does not need to impress her or orbit her. He can simply be himself. That growing connection does not go unnoticed. Sarah starts watching Peter differently once she sees him with Rachel. Up until now, she has assumed he would remain emotionally frozen in place, always trailing behind her in pain. But when she sees him beginning to heal and opening up to someone else, she gets shaken. Some of it is guilt, some of it is jealousy, and some of it is the realization that Peter is becoming more alive without her than he had been with her at the end. Sarah begins drawing closer to Peter again. She talks to him about what went wrong between them. She admits that his distance and sadness wore her down. Peter admits that he had become numb and stopped showing up in the relationship. These scenes are important because they show that their breakup came from real damage, not just sudden betrayal. But honesty does not make things simpler, it only makes them more tempting. Eventually, Aldous reveals exactly who he is. He talks openly about cheating, about needing constant attention, and about the way he drifts through relationships without much responsibility. Sarah finally breaks from him, and once she is hurt and vulnerable, Peter gets pulled back toward her. Old love, old guilt, and old habits all rise at once. Then Peter makes his worst mistake. He sleeps with Sarah. It is not framed as some triumphant reunion. It feels confused and wrong almost immediately. Peter knows he has built something real with Rachel, and the second he crosses that line with Sarah, he understands he has betrayed the one person who actually helped him become better. The fantasy of getting Sarah back collapses the moment it becomes real. He does not feel healed, he feels ashamed. Rachel finds out, and the hurt on her side lands hard because it is so deserved. She took a risk on someone broken, believed in him when he could barely stand himself, and got repaid with the exact kind of messy dishonesty she did not sign up for. She walks away, and this time Peter cannot pretend he is simply a victim of heartbreak. He caused the loss himself. Aldous soon leaves as well, drifting back into the life he always intended to keep living. Sarah is left facing the truth that neither relationship really gave her what she wanted. Peter returns to Los Angeles alone again, but this time the loneliness feels different. He is not just grieving Sarah, he is also grieving the better version of himself that he almost became with Rachel. Back home, Peter does the one thing he has been avoiding for years. He finishes the Dracula puppet musical. This part of the story matters because his creative work becomes the proof that heartbreak can either trap you or force you to make something honest out of the mess. The musical is weird, funny, heartfelt, and absolutely his. Instead of writing music to support someone else's spotlight, Peter is finally building his own. Sarah comes to see him in Los Angeles and tries one last time to reconnect. Now that Aldous is gone and Peter has grown, she can finally see what she threw away. But Peter can see clearly now too. He cares about Sarah, but he is no longer in love with the fantasy of making that old relationship work. He gently lets her go. It is one of the most important moments in the movie, because it shows he has finally stopped organizing his life around her orbit. Then the final reward arrives in a way that feels earned instead of easy. Rachel comes to Lowe's Angels and attends the puppet musical. She sees the finished version of the strange thing Peter once described to her in Hawaii, and it is good. More than good, it is honest. After the show, they find each other backstage, and Peter does not try to charm or excuse his way out of what he did. He simply speaks from the version of himself that has finally grown up enough to deserve a second chance. Rachel chooses to give him one. Forgetting Sarah Marshall works because it understands something painfully real about heartbreak. Getting dumped hurts, getting replaced hurts even more. But sometimes the biggest problem is not the person who left you. It is the part of yourself that you lost while trying to keep them. Peter begins the story as a man who has disappeared into somebody else's fame, somebody else's needs, and his own self-pity. He ends it as someone who can finally stand on his own, create something of his own, and love without begging to be chosen. So the movie ends not with revenge, not with winning Sarah back, and not with becoming cooler than Aldous Snow. It ends with Peter finally outgrowing the version of himself who thought Sarah Marshall was the center of his life. Once that happens, forgetting her is not really the point anymore. Becoming himself is.